legislature, excuse me, a little tongue tied there, as well as for the Detroit Board of Education. We're going to hear from her. She's a member of the Detroit Board. She was duly elected last year, and she's a member of a group of people that are extremely committed to public education in this community. We're gonna get into some very interesting facts and a very interesting dialogue regarding education, not only in Detroit but in the nation, because education is the key to actually reducing violence. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. When you are in communities that have an educated population outside the city of Detroit, where there are more high school graduates, where there are more college graduates, there's automatically less crime. The two go together. Not being educated and crime go together. And everything that's happening in the nation right now, quite frankly, troubles me greatly, because our school systems, and public and private, need many more resources than what they have. And so, as do many of our systems, our health system, etc. And if what I saw on television earlier today is true, that we have 1.4 million people that have come into the United States at the southern border and elsewhere, and that are just here, that means they're taking those resources from your kids, from etc. I mean, just the healthcare system alone, with this number of people that don't have any resources, we have to, take care of and so forth. Just that alone is enough to break the back of many communities, as well as I just said, from an education standpoint. So I don't know exactly, what our national agenda is. I can't decipher it. Perhaps you can. I don't understand it. I personally believe in legal immigration, where people apply, they take the test, as many people in my family did. They took the test, they passed the test, they stand and they're sworn as naturalized citizens. That's not happening right now. We actually do, as you know, have an open border. And that's very disturbing to me. And my sister says to me, well, we are a nation of immigrants. I say, yeah, that's true. But they're legal immigrants. I mean, they are people that utilize the system to become naturalized American citizens. And that's a proper process. My sister says, well, because we're a nation of immigrants, letting people in is just a matter of racism. I say, no, I don't think so, Sharon. I don't think that protecting your border is a matter of being racist. I asked my sister, ladies and gentlemen, I say, do you have a door at your house? Yes. Does it have a key and a lock? Yes. I said, what does that mean? That means that you have to have my permission to come in. That means that you have to ask to come in my house, or I have to invite you in my house. You can't just walk in my house. So how can you just walk in my country, or the country, any country, not just this country, any country? This is not permissible anywhere in the world. We can't walk into China. You can't walk into France, walk into Switzerland. There are borders and there are rules. And the reason that those rules exist is so that things like our public education system, the Detroit public school system, doesn't get overloaded. We have resources and taxpayers in the community that pay for those services, pay for health services, food for the kids at lunch, teachers, desks, chairs, computers. We have those resources that you and I pay for as taxpayers are the resources that we use in this community to educate our students. So, if suddenly there were 50,000 more kids in the school system, how do you manage that? Where do the resources for this come from? I mean, there's a limit to how much you can tax people and also how much the government can give away, particularly now since we have $30 trillion in national debt. Unbelievable. in just a few years. It's just unbelievable. So I want you to, and I urge my sister to do this as well, because she's, was, as was I, a very supportive of the Black Panthers and everything else, and we're all for unity and, independence and certainly charity, etc. But the final question becomes, how do you pay for it? How do you pay? The state of Texas, for example, the state of California, for this mass immigration of people that have needs. They have to have food, shelter, clothing, education. Where does the money come from? Where does it come from? And secondly, what does it do for the quality of life for people who are legal residents and American citizens, who are American citizens here? What does it do to their quality of life? I'm very concerned about this. I don't live in a community, as you don't either, many of you, if you're watching me from Detroit, that has a large homeless population. But I can tell you that my family and friends in California and Texas and so forth are just totally fed up with it. I mean, I can't imagine. In California, it's legal for you to pitch a tent on the sidewalk, use the bathroom on the sidewalk. Who does this? I mean, who wants to live in a community where people just use the bathroom wherever, and they have their tents and stuff like that? And the only reason we don't have that in Detroit is because right now outside it's about, I think it's about 48 degrees. It's chilly. I wore a coat today. So it's been really nice up till now. And now we're almost at November, and it's finally getting to the point where you have to turn your heat on. So because of our climate, we haven't had that deluge of people on buses and everything else coming into the community and being responsible for their education. But when we get to talking about the aspects of education that exist in this community and so forth, it's very important that you keep in mind. And I always say this all the time, even as a police commissioner, it is resources that drive service delivery. It's not need that drives service delivery. I may have ever so many needs, but if I don't have enough money to address those needs, then those needs go unmet. So think about that as you think about our school system, as you think about education, as you think about health care. Quite frankly, I'm concerned about Social Security for older Americans and Medicare and everything. Because if we have millions of people that newly qualify for Medicaid, that's going to reduce the overall pie, and it endangers those things that we consider sacrosanct. So that is my, if you will, political commentary for the day. Watch this situation. People often say they don't want to be where the snow is. Be grateful for the fact that you're going to be somewhere where the snow is, where you won't have hundreds of thousands of people that can't communicate with you, because we have different languages in your community squatting, which is really what we're talking about. Okay, back to Detroit and the police department. This week we adopted a new policy on citizen complaints. I want you to understand, ladies and gentlemen, how important it is that you contact the Board of Police Commissioners, or walk into any precinct, or ask any officer on the street. You can flag them down. Ask for a complaint form, or call the number. You can file your complaint by calling in, and an investigator will take your complaint and we will investigate it. The issue of quality service, transparent service, maintaining and supporting officers that are accountable is very important to me. It's what I'm running on now as a police commissioner. I'm seeking your support for re-election as a City of Detroit police commissioner. I'm the only lawyer on the Board of Police Commissioners. So you can take comfort in the fact, and I'm a public interest lawyer, a civil rights lawyer, so you can take comfort in the fact that I am extremely keen on these issues that are important to the community, on equal justice, equal protection, obviously your rights of privacy, etc. And clearly to being over a police department that is accountable in every sense of the word to the community. So I urge you to watch our meetings. We meet every Thursday. We start promptly at 3 o'clock. We're on Zoom. So you can go on the City of Detroit website and you can plug it in and you can watch us live. Or you can watch the City of Detroit's television station. And I think those meetings are available on television. I believe it's Saturday. On Saturday, you can start to watch the, obviously, City Council meetings, Board of Police Commission meetings, etc. So we want your feedback. There's an opportunity for public comment at the end of every board meeting. We get about 20 calls usually. Each person gets to speak for 2 minutes. They get to talk about the things that they find disturbing, or that they want, that questions that they want answered at the various as a result of what happened in the meeting. But this weekend, this past week, as I said, we just revised the policy on citizen complaints. It's even more open, more transparent, and we're going to start keeping data, even more data than we already keep, on officers who get complaints. Not just complaints for, use of force, etc. It could be a complaint about demeanor, about unprofessional behavior, about you feeling insulted, or perhaps even about over-policing, about anything, search, seizure, use of force. You didn't have to, do that to me. You didn't have to treat me that way. We want to know. We want to know. Because our officers want to do the job the right way. It's not about just doing the job. It's about doing the job the right way. Anybody can do it wrong. The point is that if you have a department that stands for excellence, then it's done right. It's not just the activity that makes it meaningful, etc. You have to do it correctly, whether it's policing or whether it is teaching. It has to be done properly so that the community gets the benefit of policing, of good policing, through transparency and through response times, etc. The community gets the benefit of that, just like in schools, the students get the benefit of being exposed to excellent educators. So we want people who do it right. We don't want people that are just standing there going through the motions. We want people that do it right, that respect you, respect me, respect every single person, irrespective of their gender or their complexion or their dialect or any of the above. I am personally committed to that, and I always have been. That's why I won 3 cases in the Michigan Supreme Court that were all about personal rights and civil rights. And so you should have comfort in that fact, that I'm there, I'm a warrior for justice, and I'm a warrior for you. You are watching Chop It Up with Attorney Linda Bernard, also Police Commissioner Linda Bernard. It's a pleasure to be with you today. You can watch us on Facebook or Twitch or Twitter or YouTube. And you are watching us, obviously, on a very famous network. It is Wjzz Cool Tv, the coolest station in the nation. You can call in with questions or your comments. That number is 313-355-6018. Again, 313-355-6018. So, having said that, we want you to give us your comments and share your point of view. Okay, back to the issue of education in our community. I was hoping that that Ms. Sherry Gay Donego would be here by now, but she obviously has been briefly delayed. But I did some research because I respect you and I respect your time. And I don't try to just, talk to talk. I want to give you some facts. There are 106 schools in the city of Detroit that serve grades pre-kindergarten through the 12th grade. This is the 2021 report. This is the most recent data that's online concerning the Detroit public school system. Quite frankly, I don't know why there's not a 21-22 plan on the website, or certainly some sort of an updated statistic, but there isn't. The student enrollment in this report was 53,406 students. That reflected at that point an 8% increase over the past 3 years. But this 2021, and obviously we're in 21-22, report of course reflects only the data for that period. 78% of the students in the Detroit public school system are eligible for free lunches, which is amazing. That shows you the poverty level in the city, when nearly 80% of your students are eligible for free lunches. And so you understand the crisis, if you will, that exists for most youth in this community. Of that, 12% of the kids are English language users. Our special guest is here today, Miss Sherry Gay Denego. Hi, Sherry. Denego. I'm sorry. I always say it incorrectly.
That's okay.
You got your seat?
It's my seat. Okay.
Okay. It's so good to see you. I'm so glad you could join us. I'm sorry you had some difficulty getting here.
That's okay. That's okay.
That's okay.
Thank you.
I just started. I've been talking about other stuff, but we're talking about the board. Miss Gay Denego.
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 My name is so tough for people.
Denego. That name is
Ivorian.
from the Ivory Coast?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Alrighty. So it's Ivorian.
See,
I learned another word today.
Congressman Conyers always said, it's Italian.
Yeah, I thought it was Italian too.
Yeah.
I thought it was Italian
I'm
as well.
looking for an Italian.
Oh, you're looking for Italian. That's what my girl. We'll find one for me and for you.
Let's go.
Yogo. Da.
See, there you go. Dan Yogo.
Dan Yogo.
Yeah,
Gotcha, my sister.
got it.
Okay, all right. I had a chance to. Sherry is on the Detroit Board of Education, and as I said earlier when I was saying that she was our guest today, she's also a former member of the legislature here in the state of Michigan. She served honorably as a state rep for 2 terms, and then decided that she wasn't through and was not ever going to be through, quite frankly, with public service, and became a Detroit school board member after a tough campaign that had about 50 people in it.
We closed the polls together.
We did close the polls together.
And
when
we
I was
won
elected.
together.
And we won together.
Yes.
That was a wonderful day.
That was. We were at the old Greater Grace, Greater Emmanuel. I was.
That's correct. We were at Greater Emmanuel Church. God bless Pastor Reverend Drew Sheard, who is the head of the entire nation, Church of God in Christ, for the whole world.
Man.
And was really proud of him and very happy for him for that. But having said that, I reviewed your 2021 Blueprint 2020 for 2021 annual report, and I was just indicating to our audience that you have 106 schools, roughly 53,000 student enrollment. You have 78% of our kids, unfortunately, are eligible for free lunches. That's like 80%, which tells you the poverty level in the city.
Right.
Almost 13% are English learners, so that means that they're probably Hispanic for the most part. And so it's a diverse student body, but 82% of the students are African American. Only about, I did some real calculations here. Only about, I think it was roughly 10% of the students are in advanced placement. 15%, I'm sorry, are in advanced placement. And they have a large career technical education certification program that has about 25% of your entire student body.
Isn't that nice? We need more. but a number of parents over time have gotten away from, unfortunately, our CTEs and technical education, but great investments have been made into those programs. And so I encourage a number of our parents to get their children in those programs.
Well, you can make a lot of money. I don't know if you're aware of this, but like if you're in the medical area, if you become a nurse, you're guaranteed at least $90,000 a year.
Absolutely.
For 3 days work a week.
Absolutely.
3 12-hour days, you make $90,000. And if you decide to be one of the nurses that now is taking care of the Afghanis in Washington and in various communities and so forth, you make $10,000 a week.
Wow.
You make $10,000 a week.
I should have been a nurse.
You and me both. I mean, in a year, that's a lot. That's $520,000. That's $500,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just most of it's just taking temperatures and the usual stuff. This isn't surgical nursing. This is just being in that core of people.
Are these LPNs?
I think they're all RNs at the
okay,
10,000 a week.
Okay.
At the 10,000 a week.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's very, very interesting. The 82% black students. You're an educator by training.
Woohoo! Yes, with my teaching certification.
Thank you.
With a master's in instructional technology. Yes, I am.
I see. But you see, you're the backbone of America. That is seriously.
Most people don't see teachers as the backbone of America.
Why not?
I don't know.
Because they're not smart?
Well, no. Our teachers are extremely smart. I just think that our country is one of the only countries, by the way, that devalues education. I was at Wayne Risa the other night, our ISD.
Explain what Wayne Risa is.
Intermediary school district. And so
Detroit is part of that. Detroit public schools.
Yes, because it's a part of Wayne County.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have all of the school districts that are a part of Wayne County, both traditional public and many of our charters. But a number of new board members were there, and it was interesting to hear their perspective on why. And many of them are actually searching for answers because they got into being a board member simply because they wanted to help make a difference. Yeah. And the funding mechanism for how we fund our schools in Michigan, you got to know the historical background of Proposal A and when that was passed and how we have per pupil allocation based on where we live. And so if a house is in Canton or Livonia, which are a part of Wayne County, and then you have a house in Detroit that might be, I'm not picking on Brightmoor because that's one of my favorite places, but Brightmoor, and you think of the cost or the SEV, the state assessed
state equalized
value. Mm-hmm. The taxes are based on those numbers, and the amount of money that is allocated to Detroit or schools that are impacted by poverty is much lower than those other communities. And so we need to change the whole funding mechanism. But one of the other issues I don't think people realize, and a lot of educators, they're not a part of the political process. They're not a part of, many of them, if you're in a room, you ask them, so who's your state rep? They don't know.
But I think it's even beyond that. They pay union dues and they rely
That's
on
not
the
enough.
union.
That's not enough.
I agree with you,
That's
but that's what they that association is a very strong association in the state of Michigan.
Let's be honest. I'm a labor baby through and through.
Okay.
I will fight for labor until I die. I bleed blue.
I do too.
But let's be clear. Our labor units have suffered some of weakening in these last few years. The impact of having, right to work, the emergency management laws. I mean, prevailing wage has been under attack. I mean, there are a number of labor issues that we could go on and talk about a show just about labor.
Oh, absolutely.
But labor unions have to negotiate, and sometimes you have people who negotiate differently than others. And it's incumbent upon the educators to not just, put their fate in the hands of who they elected, hold them accountable, yes, but still be a part of the conversation. And in any school I've taught in, the conversations that I'll have with teachers is like, it's a shame that you all do not know your elected officials. That's unacceptable.
Well, I agree. They don't know who their city council person is, and they don't know what the police commissioners are or do or who they are either.
Unacceptable.
So I try to wear my badge so at least I can tell people,
Right.
so they at least can identify a person with the,
Right.
with the office. The Detroit
I thought
Public.
that badge just mean you carry it.
I do. The budget for the Detroit public school system in this report was $766,666,822, roughly $800 million, almost $1 billion.
Yes.
For only 53,000 students. When I broke that down, it comes to like 14,500 per kid.
Right.
And some of that comes from taxes, some of it comes from the federal government.
Yeah, well, that's the ARP dollars. I mean, dollars that have come in here because of COVID-19.
Well, not just that. I mean, before that, because this was.
Well, the additional boost that we got for the 1.2, 1.5, my numbers escape me, are ARP dollars, and it's going to even increase even more if we appropriate additional dollars. But yes, even before we were getting some good, Title I revenue, and I think that, when you break the numbers down, when we talk about our infrastructure versus what happens in the classroom, I think we have to balance that.
See, I want to talk. I mean, the infrastructure issues are going to be there. We had great schools, great public school system, beautiful building. I mean, I've been over to Henry Ford. There are like 200 students in there now. I mean, the whole place is like a cavernous, awful place. I went to speak there. I couldn't believe it. And I could tell that because the lockers go 1,001, 1,002, that there used to be like 1,500 kids in that school.
Absolutely.
And now they're like a couple of hundred maybe, which is ridiculous.
Right.
You just need a much smaller building. But anyway, what was very disturbing to me, Sherry, and actually I've written an article about it, and it's going to be published on the Free Press or the News, is the response of the Detroit public school system to the virus. I went to Catholic school for 12 years. Mm-hmm. All the Catholic schools were open during COVID. All the public schools closed. Mm-hmm. A lot of parents, yourself probably included, if you had a young child, wouldn't put them in private school, put them in Catholic school, because you didn't want them to sit out 2 years, almost. Uh-huh. So why?
Well, so I mean, you have a different, and I will say this: I was a proponent for supporting school closure because of the fear.
3 weeks.
Because longer than 3 weeks, because of the fear that exists with many of our educators and our parents. When you talk to people, so I did a survey. When I was running for the school board. I actually sent out a mailer, had a town hall. I mean, that's how I really got into running for the school board, because teachers reached out in urgency about many of them having pre-existing conditions, our schools, the infrastructure, the HVAC systems, the cleanliness, the fight that we had in 2016. And so that, coupled with not knowing how the contagions flow through our ventilation systems, etc. So if you have a workload, our teachers, our professionals, our lunchroom ladies, our principals who don't have unions, many of them who have a number of health challenges already, and they're expressing, I'm afraid to be there.
Well, but their job.
I don't agree. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. Safety first. That's what the union's all about, is safety first.
I agree with safety. But what happened is that kids that were already educationally handicapped are severely handicapped now. And you've lost most of them.
Well, no.
How many kids?
No.
You haven't done your count yet this year, right?
No, we just had count day.
What is the count?
Well, I don't have the number in front of me. I don't have the number in front of me. But we have not had a huge loss. We've recuperated or regained a number of our students, even both in our traditional in-person in seats, but you also have students who are learning virtually, and that was the preference of many of the parents. And as the virus continues to mutate and people not having a certainty of what it is, and you got to think about this: how many of our children, how many of our family members of their families, I should say,
we have reached herd immunity. That's clear.
Well, no, you're
going to have the flu. You're going to have measles. You're going to have mumps. It is clear. 70,
No.
80% of the state is vaccinated.
So 70,
That's herd immunity.
but what you see in our schools is a microcosm of our society that shows a different number.
Excuse me, you're watching WJZC Cool TV. Thank you for joining us on Chop It Up.
Go to her webpage.
Thank you for joining us on Chop It Up with Attorney Linda Bernard. My special guest today is school board member Sherry Gay Denego, a woman, a teacher, a legislator, a leader across this country, quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, and one that I'm very delighted to have today. Please always watch us on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. That's okay, right. Go back to your point.
So in our schools, I mean, we're seeing on a daily basis.
Your schools are no different than other schools, Sherry.
No.
Sherry.
But no.
Catholic
You're
schools,
getting, no, but
Lutheran
schools
attending? Are schools.
Who's attending? No. You got to understand the population.
I got the population.
Who's attending? If you could tell me that the demographics of a Catholic school are the exact same as DPS, come on.
Then I can be exact.
Comorbidity in the African American community, the impact of COVID on the African American community had far greater fatal impact than it had on
because
any other.
Because of our obesity. We're the most obese people in the nation.
So we have children. We have children who are obese.
Condition. That's right.
We have children who are obese. So we have their parents. We have staff person. Listen. Let me show you my waist.
I see. You look great. You look great. You have really.
So listen.
I'm jealous. You got to tell me what you did. My shirt is out, ladies and gentlemen, because I can't
do that.
I got my
shirt tucked in. Right.
I can't wear a belt right now, but she can. So I give you your props. Yay, Sherry.
But in all honesty, a lot of my inspiration behind this is the doctors that I talked to, especially after losing my sister, who wasn't obese, by the way, but had pre-existing conditions. She had open heart surgery. Unfortunately, heart problems run on that side of her family. On her father's side, we have different fathers. My brother also had open heart surgery. And so this is an issue. I always used to laugh, jokingly, but saying I was the biggest one, but I didn't have high blood pressure or cholesterol issues. Well, now my cholesterol had gotten a little out of whack, so I said I got to eat to live, and I got to move to live, because my mother's 82 and she can still drop it like it's hot.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be in that number, but I say all that to say, I'm not going to blame people for having poor health. Our community is underinsured. We live in food deserts. Many people haven't been taught properly what to eat. I cringe when I'm in the grocery store and I see parents with their food stamp card or whatever it is, and a whole bunch of oodles and noodles, hot Cheetos, pop, you name it.
Candy.
Chips. All the things that, but the child, that's not the child's fault. But
I agree with that.
But we could talk about the whole nutrition that is missing.
All Americans are fat. Got that part.
But you have those who are more learned.
So the kids in Catholic school are fat too.
Not all. Not at the same rate. I don't know the dynamics, so I won't argue a point that I don't have actual data on.
And in Lutheran schools and Muslim schools, etc.
The demographics are different. I'm sorry, they're different because you have parents who have selected to put their children in these schools, and most times they have transportation, they have jobs, they have higher education, hence their understanding of the need to have nutritional
all the more reason for the kids to be in school, so
they
can break those chains.
Well, I don't think we've broken those chains since in the 70s. I think we need a whole restructuring of how we educate and how we inform our community.
You can't educate if teachers don't come to school.
Well, I think it is a catch-22 situation. If they are getting sick, I mean, my godbrother, who happens to be the principal of
then
Bates,
they on sick leave. I got that part. We have a system for that.
But the rate of exposure for COVID running rampant through schools. And think about this: if you have a district where children are coming from communities where the social issues are greater, folks not sending their kids to Catholic school that don't have washers and dryers. Okay. Folks are not sending their kids to Catholic school that can't afford to buy uniforms. So you got a whole different demographic of who's going to Catholic schools. But our school is the flagship of the community that is your come one, come all. And when a child comes to you who's living in a house without water, without gas,
They're not supposed
without
to
a
be
washer,
there.
without.
They can't be there legally if
But-
it doesn't have water.
But it exists.
Or toilets.
It exists. So do you advocate for children being snatched out of their homes, or do you advocate for programs that wrap their arms around these families and try to meet the needs? And so with that being the case, many of our teachers will know when a child comes into class that hasn't eaten, that isn't clean. And we talked about that on our school committee meeting the other day. Like, are we going to look at putting washers in every school? I mean, that shouldn't be the job necessarily of educators, but it's become a responsibility and a need in many ways to meet the needs of our. So with that being the case,
I think that's good.
But with that being the case, the whole concept
But it goes beyond that because their hair hasn't been combed.
But I want to get to the point of COVID and the spread of COVID when a child is coming from a home that already has a hygiene problem. And so if they're not adequately cleaning themselves, if their hands are not clean, they're coming into contact with the desk. They're coming into contact with the staff. And then you don't want to treat them like they're, like they have
Detroit children are not as poor as the children in Appalachia. And you know that as an educator because you have the data.
But we're not talking Appalachia.
Let's keep this in perspective.
But we're talking
What
Detroit.
I'm talking about is my people, my children, my community, losing all this time in education. Let me just say this to you, Sherry, and I say this and I say it in the article that I just wrote. If I had been free when I was 14, 15...
Give me that article before it goes
out.
Wait a minute.
Okay. For 2 years, the streets would have caught me. School provides structure.
Yes, it does.
And infrastructure for you.
Does.
I have something to do.
Right.
School is a kid's job. When you are off work for 2 years, doing nothing, except the boys would be talking to you, talking to me, I'd be talking to the streets would have caught me. There's no question in my mind. I would never be what I do or doing what I'm doing today. And that's my problem with it. Teachers are essential workers. They just are.
They are essential workers. So
no, they aren't.
No, they are. They are essential. They are essential.
Sherry,
but pay them accordingly.
Sherry.
Pay them accordingly.
Kroger workers are paid $15 an hour, but it's not the same thing.
They made a choice. The Kroger CEO made in the millions of dollars.
Wait a minute.
Rewind. In the millions of dollars.
Rewind.
That's
not my point.
Workers Union.
Wait a minute. That's not what I'm saying.
Do them good now.
Wait a minute. That's
my
not the issue.
My sister worked at Kroger's. On my daddy's side. I couldn't believe how much they CEO got.
Let me rewind here. Let me rewind here. If the designation of a Kroger worker, a bagger, is an essential worker, but a teacher is not designated an essential worker, there's something wrong with that picture. Because clearly, I cannot leave kids to be caught by the streets. The rise that you see...
But you're putting too much of a responsibility.
I'm not.
You're putting a social worker case
I'm not.
on teachers.
School is my job when I'm in the 7th and 8th grade.
School is my job.
That's my job.
But as a student,
where I learn.
As a student.
Not just as a student. It's where I make my content. I have expectations. The teacher says I got a book report due. It occupies my mind. Okay, so let's talk about it develops me.
But let's talk about the
I'm
whole.
fungible. I'm fungible then.
Let's talk about all the stakeholders that are responsible.
I'm talking about teachers not being designated essential workers.
Wait, what are the parents?
They're not. The teachers are doing. If they're essential workers, they're doing their job. The problem was that our state did not designate teachers as essential workers. That's the problem, and it hurt my people and it hurt my community. That's my problem.
Well, I mean, some of those
DPS didn't come to work.
Some of those
because they weren't essential workers. And they would have still come. Guess what? That's what.
A lot of them did. And the parapros did as well. But no, you can't make people go in an environment where people are dying at rapid rate.
Florida's doesn't matter. Other states did it. Teachers were essential workers. Catholic schools made teachers essential workers. Lutheran schools were essential workers. Didn't nobody die out? Didn't anybody die?
Yes, they did. Teachers did die. Janitors died. Several people died.
700,000 people died.
So you're asking
people. It was a disease. It was a disease.
So you're asking people.
Some people are going to get it. Some people aren't. But 80% of the people that got it were over 70 years of age.
Okay.
And 88%.
No, they're children that are getting it daily. They might not be dying at the same rate.
I said 88% of the people that died were seniors, and the only reason they died is because of our failure to address that special needs population appropriately.
Okay, that's a whole another conversation.
No. That is the reason.
nursing
You and
home
I are statisticians. We both understand facts and data.
Oh no, I know, but I'm just saying. If you bring up the whole nursing home conversation,
not just nursing home, just in general, older people needed to be protected because their immune system is really serious.
Yes, they did.
And you're also right about people that have serious pre-existing, like lupus, some sort of immune deficiency, or Parkinson's. You got to keep those people separate. I got that part. But that had nothing to do with the failure of this state to designate teachers as essential, but Kroger workers essential.
I disagree.
And guess what? When I went into Walmart, where their workers are, or Kroger, where there are 1,000 people, everybody in there.
But a lot of them.
But you can put on your mask, your gloves, and your clothes.
But here we're mixing apples and oranges.
No, we're not.
No, we're mixing apples and rutabagas. And let me tell you why. Yes, we are.
No, we're not.
Because a cashier does not sit in the same class for self-contained classes for a 7-8 hour day. They're not in the same close environment. A grocery store is much larger. The ventilation is different. You're not sitting with the same group, or you're not seeing 6 sets of kids at different times that you're dealing with. So that's different. It's
you
totally
obviously can rearrange the classroom. We have tons of schools.
But they haven't.
Well,
I get calls every day.
You're the board member.
I'm one board member. Okay,
That's true. I can't make changes on the board of police commissioners either. I cannot.
So it takes some people take whatever is said during the meetings and say that's the gospel. But then when I get an inbox, an email, a phone call, sometimes I feel like people put my phone number on the bathroom wall because I get calls from everything you could imagine.
Me too.
But it's not always the case.
Copies of documents.
Right. And so in different schools, it might be done a particular way because, like you said, Henry Ford, they're underpopulated, so they have greater space.
Every school is just about underpopulated, except your new ones.
But no, some are tight. I think Gumpers is one of the schools kind of tight. But and there's a few more. But the thing is if you don't have enough teachers, or if you're not making sure that the class sizes are truly capped, then you have the numbers are over. There's no social distancing at the rate at which it should.
With 50,000 students and $800 million, almost $1 billion, you cannot tell me that this problem, that this situation could not have been addressed by the administration in a more appropriate manner. And that's the state of Michigan.
Yes.
Unfortunately, our governor failed to do this. If a police officer, so many other professions, they are all essential workers. I don't mind paying them more. That's fine with me. I don't have any problem with that. But to dismiss school, to leave me out there as a girl, hanging out for 2 years as a teenager.
So let's rethink education. There are many of our teachers and staff members and principals that, despite what the state said, when our schools were open for the learning centers, etc., they showed up and they showed out. So I give them a round of applause.
I do too.
There are many of them
that did not,
and for their own personal health or otherwise, I support them and I'll fight for them. And that was the reason why I even ran for the school board, because
have you seen the videos?
What video?
Of the teachers.
What about
and the things that the teachers did during COVID? I mean, it was just. Not just here. Not just here. I mean, it was vacation time. It was exercise time. It was everything. I mean, all these were on national TV.
You might have got some of that from some people, but a lot of people were still teaching even once we started our virtual learning. They were teaching.
There's no real such thing with these Detroit kids as virtual learning.
But whose fault was that? It's not.
There is no such thing.
Whose fault was that? I have a master's in instructional technology. So whose fault was that?
I'm going to ask you what that means, actually.
Instructional technology is a discipline that, first of all, helps to create curriculum and a learning platform, a learning modality that could, in many ways, be virtual for corporate training and or academic training. And so if you understand the dynamics of how people learn, some people can learn if the platform, you can't just say, okay, everybody sign in. Who's here today? You can't treat a virtual platform just like it's a classroom.
When there are 4 kids in the house.
Right, and one laying in the bed and one going up. And then if they didn't have adequate computers for every student.
Try the internet. Right. 33% of the city of Detroit doesn't have the internet.
Okay, and whose fault is that?
whose fault is the bottom line is that it shouldn't fall on the kids. The teachers should be in classrooms and they should be there ready to teach.
I disagree.
And they can protect themselves any way they want.
When it is not
any way they want.
No.
Let me just say this to you.
I disagree.
Let me just go to this. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the nation.
You should have had some mimosa for this conversation.
I am attorney Linda Bernard. You're watching Chop It Up. I'm also Police Commissioner Linda Bernard for the City of Detroit, and my guest is the distinguished Sherry Gay Denego, who is a member of the Detroit Board of Education. And we're having this intense dialogue where we're both doing our thing as women here.
This is my opening day, buddy.
Right. About education and how we dropped the ball. We dropped the ball.
But I think there's greater responsibility, and if we continue to just shift the responsibility in the laps of educators, we miss the ball. How is it that people that can sit in the administrative offices can receive six-figure salaries, whereas you have teachers that have been teaching for years that are stuck on the same steps? And so if you're asking them...
That's a labor union negotiation. You agreed to the collective bargaining agreement. You get what you negotiated. Any contract. If your contract with Sears says your warranty's 2 years, you can't go 2.5 years. You are stuck with the contract that you signed. There is such a thing as personal responsibility.
There is... And now that's the point that I make. And being a person who's advocated for true investment in our schools and true respect and support for our teachers, I do place a lot of the blame on them. When we were going through the whole DPSCD legislation and
what's CD mean?
Well, community district.
Oh,
so we're paying for the old company, old code. When you remember that legislation, 2016. That's when I first went to the legislature. So we had Judge Stephen Rhodes, and then we had the other.
Yeah.
So when we were going through that process, and people not fully understanding the history of a district that was once thriving with more than 200,000 students,
correct,
to a point in 2010 when the state takeover took place, and the money that was afforded DPS was taken as well, which is why Helen Moore continues to fight because
I love her.
Yes,
please tell her I said hello.
I will. She's probably watching. And I learned a lot of the issues that impacted DPS from Lamar Lemons, who served on the board for a number of years and continued to advocate and fight for what's right. Right. So knowing the historical context of where our district has been, what it's gone through, what we're fighting for, I am very disappointed oftentimes when I talk to educators who don't participate at all, who don't care about the political process, but they'll be the first ones on my phone asking for me to fight to get their money back.
Oh, it's all about the Benjamins, baby.
Yeah,
That's my problem.
It is.
It's not about what's best for society. It's not about what's best for kids. And that is what has been most disturbing to me, especially during this whole period of COVID.
So I'll say yes and no. I think they have the right to be paid fairly.
Absolutely.
But it's not about the money.
Do the job.
But it's not about the money for teachers, because if it were, they should choose another profession. I mean, being in education is not. You're not going to get wealthy.
About that. When you really think about it, you have all Christmas off, all Thanksgiving off, a whole summer off.
But see,
our whole education
but
system
Linda, Linda, it is that exact mindset why teachers are devalued in this country. You got legislators that
that's devaluing.
No, it is devaluing.
You got to look at
it's your own mental health. Do you know how much Cabernet I had to drink while teaching?
Well, see, I'm a champagne girl. So are you.
I mean, this is the issue. When Dan Rather came to Detroit and interviewed us, he did the documentary, A National Disgrace. That was when I was actually in the classroom teaching.
Wow,
a national disgrace. You got to pull it up. Look, watch that documentary, A National Disgrace. But I actually talked about that. It is not as simple as people. You don't just say, "Oh, the day is over. I go home. It's over." The day is over. I go home with 160 reports that I got to read with fairness, using a rubric. I got to go home with 160 science projects that I got to read.
A lot of people do work at home.
No. But Linda, you're dismissing.
And that's not every day. The science project takes a whole month to do.
You're dismissing the fact that the work goes beyond.
Profession. I agree with that.
It goes beyond.
Whose work doesn't go beyond?
A lot of people. When you work in the hospital,
how many hours I spend at Detroit Police Department?
But that's because you're elected and you're serving in that capacity.
No,
that's different.
I don't get paid.
You don't. I don't get paid for being a board member.
No, I know you don't.
But my point
that's my
is,
point. And you have all that stuff to read, all that stuff to do.
Auntie, but the point is,
goes with the job.
I can't expect teachers to show up in their best mindset.
But I expect everybody else to.
But let me just say this. I believe when people feel good, when people feel respected, when people feel supported, they can provide. That's an extension to our children. If the teachers and the principals, the lunch lady, the janitor, the whole system, if they don't feel good, our children are not going to get the greatest academic outcome they can get. You got to respect teachers, pay them right, treat them right.
I absolutely believe in pay rights and pension rights. I agree with that. I don't like the system, however.
I don't either.
And I think it does. Our nation, we're like 24th in the world in terms of education.
And for literacy, even lower. But go on.
Okay, see, that's my point. It's not working. And it's not working in part because of these issues, because we let it go. I mean, I have real problems with what happened because as a police commissioner, I mean our increase in I'm not passionate, our increase in violence, our increase in guns among youth. The other day, 2021, these are kids that would have been in school.
Now you're on my street.
It's ridiculous.
Now you're on my street, but guess what? Many of them that are going to school, can I help you? Many of them that are going to school are taking that behavior because of the crisis that exists in their homes. And so if we don't address mental health as a real thing, we're going to continue to see escalated rates of violence. They had a whole thing on TikTok where it was a challenge to go to school and slap a teacher. Did you see that?
No.
Look it up.
No, but that's outrageous.
It is outrageous, but it's a thing. It's a real thing.
I understand that.
And so, I mean, the fights that broke out at East English Village,
right.
The fights that broke out at Mumford, teachers getting...
Kids been free for 2 years.
But that's
you get
not
them out of their system.
But
they got to stay in their lane.
What are their parents teaching them at home? There's accountability that has to be in place. I mean,
I'm a homeless kid. I know that when I walk in that schoolhouse or in that police station that I got to act like a person. I mean, people are not stupid. Even you were in the second grade and the first grade, you knew to obey the teacher.
But no, some of these parents, Linda,
it doesn't have anything to do with the parent.
Hold on,
because they had a ruler. They didn't play.
But see, you can't hit children.
I know you can't hit them anymore.
But you got to put the fear of God in them.
That's correct.
And me teaching at Henderson and Remus Robinson, I did, and many of my students will let you know I did not play that. But I had parents that would actually say, "Oh, I'm on my way up there because my son said you did X, Y, and Z."
I got that part.
And I said, "Baby, meet me at the front door."
And I'm gonna follow because you were unable to come earlier today. We're gonna do a part two with Sherry Gay Denego on this issue. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe I'll do that. We'll do it with mimosas. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in today and looking at this woman now that's like half what she used to be.
Not half yet. Beautiful. Not half yet.
But she's gorgeous, and I appreciate your attention and your time. Thank you very much, Ms. Sherry Gay Denego.
Dan
Yogo. Detroit Public School Board of Education member, and obviously former legislator.
And just know that Linda is my homie. This is my ride or die. And so while we have different views on a number of things, we have a great time together always.
But we're going to share those views with you, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to do this in a part two. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy that you came. And I want to thank my audience today for being with me.
Thank you.
Gracias.
De
everybody.
nada.
Thank you.